clicked it. I got to go over here, refresh my posts. It says I'm live on Facebook, but I'm not yet. I can tell I'm not. Click that thing, look for the post, make people wait. It's working. Okay, I clicked this little publish 2 minutes ago. Then I got to mute it. Okay, it's happening. And then I have to not look at this because we've got some weird lag. Good morning, everyone, on this weird, different world kind of morning that we exist in now, the COVID-19 morning. We're going to start this off the way that we are supposed to start these lives off, which is by drinking tea out of this mug. You know what? Let's feature a mug. Let's make a new tradition right here today. I'm going to feature mugs. Probably this will be the only time I'll do this. I don't know if I really find this that funny, but we're going to find out. So we've got this mug is gray with a purple interior. I like that a lot. That's a pleasing shape to my hand. Good handle. You can get all of your fingers into it. You guys ever used mugs where you can only get like 2 fingers into it, or even worse, it crams your fingers in and burns them against the cup? That's stupid. Don't do that, mug makers. That's good tea. Okay, so there's a couple things I notice. It seems like the stream is incredibly crappy. And if that's the case, that's fine. We'll just have you watch this on preview. We'll record it. It means we won't have as many live viewers. And if the stream is not as crappy as I seem to think it is, if it's actually watchable, great, then you'll watch the stream and we'll kind of make do with what we've got. What do I want to share to start our day? So the journey I've been on through this virus that's affecting us all it's looked a little bit like this. I guess just shy of 2 weeks ago, Friday, 2 weeks ago, we were in Palm Springs. Audio bueno, video slow, but love to see. Okay, great. Thanks, Karen. As long as the audio is bueno, that's bueno. That's what we're aiming for. So 2 weeks ago, my wife and I were in Palm Springs. Everything had been shut down and canceled. So Palm Springs, super boring, not a fun place to be if there's nothing to do there. And we were scheduled to fly back home on Tuesday, and we realized we probably just should get back home now. And so we scheduled a flight the next day on Saturday, got home. Almost immediately once we arrived, we got the notice that Canada was going to reduce the number of airports that was allowing flights into to 4 on the whole country. It's a big country too. And then shortly thereafter, my parents came home on the Tuesday, and Wednesday morning they said, we're shutting the border with the States. So, you know, when things happen that quickly, that generates a lot of fear, right? Like the speed at which things progress takes away some of our time to breathe into something, to adapt to it, to really feel it, to let our nervous system get settled. And so we saw like, holy crap, things are happening really quickly. We saw that people were buying stuff on the shelves. We noticed that the one time Bae was in the grocery store, she saw shelves that were empty. You know, like there's no frozen vegetables in the store. And of course, when you see that promotes a lot of fear. It gets into your head like, look, everyone's bought the frozen vegetables. You're never going to have any frozen vegetables. There's no end in sight, you know, and your fear picks up with this and runs with it. So the early part of this journey for me has been a lot of fear. I've really been present to how afraid I've been. And then my fear has shown up kind of like, at first it showed up a lot like feeling uninspired and bored, and like craving novelty, really. Like, oh, everyone's talking about COVID-19. I'm bored of that. I want us to be talking about something else. I don't have anything to say. And then distracting myself, drinking, eating, playing video games, doing stuff just to not have to be present. And then as I sat with that and could be with my own fear, I was really present to all of our fear, our collective fear, and at times feeling quite overwhelmed by it. Some of the things that really got me would be I'd notice the way fear looked like for one group of people, which might be panic buying, or like Florida spring break people partying in Florida, even though, like, oh, whatever, who cares about this thing? We're going to party in Florida. And I noticed the way other people's fear looked like was judging these people, making them wrong, ridiculing them, diminishing them. You're stupid. And I found it really hard to keep my heart open in the face of that. Now, all of that is just the energetic of fear. It's all just different flavors, different faces for how the energy of fear can show up. And the long and skinny of this is like, I've got space to show up and be with fear when it looks one way, but those people slamming other people, that was harder for me to be with. Probably because I think, one, that tends to be my go-to, right? You spot it, you got it. And it also, I used to get bullied in high school or junior high or whatever, consequently became a bully myself. That's what tends to happen. If you hate something, you tend to become that something. And so when I see something that it leads to me being hyper vigilant. I have no capacity to be with someone, including myself, showing up that way. And what that means is that I want to condemn these people that are just having their fear show up a particular way. And I also want to, I have a vested interest in not seeing myself when I show up this way. And so the playoff of all of that is just hard to stay heart open. I noticed my video is super choppy. Are you guys like, is this video even watchable? Be helpful if Karen or someone can just let me know on that note too. So I'll stop paying attention to it either way. Maybe that's the best thing I can do. So initially, a lot of fear, a lot of feeling uninspired, not really sure what there was for me to bring into that space. And some of the people in my corner really shared like, I'm really craving your voice right now, Adam. We need you to be speaking into this space too. And so last Friday I went live and had nothing to say and yet stepped forward to say something. And that's, I think, really kind of the path of leadership a lot of the time is we may not know what to say. We may not have any idea what there is to do. And yet we're willing to step forward and to do our best in the space of those feelings, of those not knowing, of not having a map for how to navigate this territory. Morning, Heather. Heather, can you let me know if this video is even remotely watchable? I'm not sure if it is or is not, so we could use your help there. And I found in stepping in and just speaking my voice into the space that provided me a lot, and that kind of got the ball rolling. And so I've gone from feeling overwhelmed and afraid. That stuff's still available for me, and there's still fear that shows up from time to time, to underwhelmed and kind of bored. Okay, thanks, Heather. That's good to know. And then what I'm noticing is feeling really inspired and really like fecund with my creativity in this space. There's just so much energy to work with, and it's right out there for us to be with. It's not hidden somewhere. We're not operating over the top of the energy that's actually there. All of the stuff we've been doing to operate over the top has been blown away. So it's just a lot of raw energy to work with. And if you can be with your fear and hold that energy, not pretend it's not there, not wallow in it, but really just hold it and be with it, there's a lot of stuff that you can do with that. I started to get a little Scottish in my speaking there. So I found myself inundated with requests for conversation, for opportunities to collaborate with people, with inspiration, with things to write about. And what I'm really present to is we need right now voices of leadership. We need people stepping into leadership. When things are good, it's easy for people to claim to be a leader whilst not actually being a leader, to do the doing, to say the things that they think a leader says, but without bringing any of the being. And we need people that can hold and be with everything that's getting kicked up and step into the unknown. What's happening is we're seeing a lot of our paradigms break down. A lot of the stuff that used to work, a lot of the ways that we need to do things are falling apart. And where that's leaving us is we need people that are going to craft what's next. And so, you may be watching thinking, well, that's easy for you to say, Adam. You've been doing this for 10 years. At this point, you've got a following. Maybe you That's me not trusting that I have a following, by the way. That's what that sounds like. You've got a bunch of work underneath you. It's easier for you. And, if that voice is there for you, what I want to say is you're actually in the work. Like, if even by virtue of watching, being a part of conversations like this one, you're actually being in the practice of leadership. You're being with leadership, and that rubs off. So in case you think I'm not talking about you, I am. We need your voice. Speak your voice into the space. We need people that are in this conversation to be in the world, sharing, putting themselves out there, even and especially if you don't know what you have to share. So I'm going to share a couple things that I'm working on, and then I'm going to bring Mara on, and we're going to dive in together. The first is that I've had some crazy ideas, some interesting ideas kind of percolate forward in this climate, I guess we'll call it. One is that I noticed there's a lot of beautiful opportunities to meditate, to breathe. A lot of people are creating calls for people to do that, to come together and have like a community experience. And I thought, well, maybe what there is to do is to offer an opportunity for us to just get together and experience and express whatever is there for us, anger, sadness, whatever the emotional resonance is that's in our space, to actually have a call where we can practice that. So that's today at 2:00. You can check out my Facebook page, or not this business page, but like my personal page. I've got a link to it there. And that's a 1-hour call. And then the other thing I'm doing, which is born out of a ludicrous idea, is I really believe in the ability, what do I believe in? I believe that humans are born with a fundamental innate goodness, a set of traits, a set of qualities, a set of ways of being that are just ours. They're uniquely our own, and we express those into the world. And what happens is we get afraid, and then we learn to do stuff. Our fear takes those cool qualities and it uses it for its own nefarious purposes, which means it uses those qualities to get what we think we need in such a way that we get to avoid being with the thing we're afraid of. So like, if you want ice cream, but you're afraid of being rejected, your fear will take your qualities and find some sneaky way to get ice cream without having to ask for it. It's a ridiculous example, but that's kind of the nature of the way I hold that we evolve. And what happens is over time, that just gets twisted in on itself. So it's like we get wrapped around the axle. And so 40 years later, a child learns to do this, and then we encounter them 40 years down the road, where these patterns and tendencies have become really well-worn ruts. They're like automatics. They're just a part of the way that person shows up now, rather than something that they may choose to do once in a while. And then we relate to the person as those patterns. Oh, Marcy, she's a slut because that's how she gets what she wants. I'm using a nasty word, but like you get the idea, right? That could be one way that someone has learned to be able to get something they want without being rejected, if you spun that along far enough. So the gift in all of that is being able to see the goodness that is past the surface, past those patterns that people have created. And we're not very good at this as humans. First of all, we don't really distinguish these things as separate from each other. We hold them as like this big waxy ball, and we call it the way you are. And second, there's this TV show that's come out that Bay and I just finished watching called Tiger King. And Tiger King is kind of trashy. And it's about a guy who's kind of trashy, who's now in jail. He is a former big cat zoo owner. So he bred tigers, kept them in captivity. You can just feel in yourself like, wow, that feels crappy, even just describing that. And the guy's ridiculous. He's flamboyant. He's gay, which is fine, but he's like flamboyant. He is loud. He is obnoxious. He swears a lot, and he's in jail. One of the reasons being that he tried to hire someone to murder another person. So like, it's a fascinating story. Think of that guy however you want, but like, that's a lot of crazy stuff, right? A lot of nonsense, a lot of wackadoodle behavior. And so what we're doing is we're watching the first episode of the Tiger King, and we're going to use that as a way of practicing distinguishing someone's survival mechanism, the stuff they've learned to do to avoid their fear, from their whatever we'd call it, their their essence, their innate goodness, their purest, truest self, their light. So it's going to be a really weird exercise. I asked if there was an interest for it and got an overwhelming response. And so I said, okay, great. And I scheduled the call and I created the Zoom thing. And then I immediately got terrified. The terror being like, what a stupid idea. What a ridiculous thing to try to create. And it's going to suck. That's the flavor of my fear. That's crazy what you're doing. You don't know anything about how to do that, Adam. You don't understand how to make something like that happen. You've never done anything like this before. What a silly idea. You're going to look like a goofball. And that's leadership. That's how leadership works, right? I felt called to bring something. I'm going to create it. I create it. A bunch of fear gets kicked up, and my job is to be with the fear and not let it stop me. So those are two things that are ongoing right now. I feel like it's time for us to bring Mara on, so it's not just me talking. So Mara, get that camera on, get that mic on, get over here.
All right.
Get that camera. You're just a black. Oh, all right. You're no longer just a black rectangle. You're so much more than a black rectangle now.
Yay! How about that? I'm doing
How
something
was that?
right.
Yes, you are. How was that for you?
Sitting in the green room. It made me nervous listening to you. Yeah.
Are you scared that the tiger thing will suck?
I find that hilarious that you think that might suck. That is so the way my mind works. I do this stuff, and I did something similar, and I run leadership development programs, and I did something similar that I've never done, and that was almost word for word what I thought in my head. You don't know how to do this, Mara. What are you doing? Sit down and shut up. You don't. Blah blah blah. And it worked out great, and mostly because it's not up to me to create good stuff. It's like it's up to me to hold the container and show up, and people do whatever they do, and they're grateful for someone holding the container for them.
Yeah. I talked about this last week. Have you read Show Your Work by Austin Kleon?
I have not.
Great book. Highly recommend it. There's a man named Sturgeon. I don't know what his first name is. We'll call him Reginald Sturgeon because that's funny to me. So Reginald Sturgeon has a eponymous law, which is 80% of everything is crap. Great law to have named after you, right? And Austin Kleon says, there's some truth to Sturgeon's law. Like the bulk of what you produce will not be the cream of your crop, so to speak. The thing is, you are not a good judge of what you produce that's crap and what you produce that's absolute brilliance. And so what we have to do is we have to show our work. We have to put it out there. We have to be willing to let the world see everything as we're creating it. And they will give us the feedback that allows us to distinguish the crap from the absolute brilliance that we are here to produce. And I just think, what a beautiful expression of what you just said, it's not for us to decide whether it's good or bad. What there is for us to do is to run a live show where we watch the Tiger King, apparently.
Yeah. That takes a lot of courage, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah. It demands something from us for sure.
And the thing about that too is that it takes courage. You don't just say, okay, now I have courage and you show up. It's like every moment takes courage. And it's like staying in that state of it is what it is. And I'm just going to show up moment after moment after moment. It's tough.
Well said. Yeah. Well said. Very true. Well, on that note, what are we going to talk about today?
I had it all planned out.
Yeah, it was all sorted, right?
Now I had it all figured out. And we were both going to look brilliant, but that's gone now.
Okay.
I
ruined that.
You did. So thanks for that, Adam. You said something that really started scaring me, and I kind of want to go into that.
Sure.
I feel it in my belly right now. I don't like it. So I think this would be a good thing to talk about.
Great.
Yeah. So you said in this time and space at this point, we all have to show up with the best that we have to show up with, right? And the people who had all the answers before no longer have these answers. And it's a time for the rest of us to show up. stand in these places of leadership and to the best of our ability, not really knowing what we're doing, and show up and get our voices heard.
Uh-huh.
And this is the time for it. Now is the time. Like, so as you're saying that, I was like, I know that's true. So what does that mean for me? It means it's my time to show up, not having all the answers, stand into my leadership. People are looking for it like crazy. And be my imperfect, unprepared self and be a curator of good stuff. I can do that. But they also want to hear my voice. I'd rather be a curator because then it's like putting other people's voices out there.
Right.
But they also want to hear my take on it. But what if I don't sound good? What if I look really shitty? Can I swear on this?
Yeah, you sure can. Sure can.
Right. So I'm scared. Like, as you're saying that, I know this to be true. And I know in this point of my life, my whole life has been leading up to this point where I step into leadership, get my voice out there and just show up. And I'm like, even now as I'm talking, it's in my belly. I'm terrified.
What are you scared of?
I'm scared of not doing it right, looking stupid. And that's like all right, that's my quick answer to that. So what am I really scared of? I think, like everything, it comes down to a sense of worthiness. Like you don't deserve to take up the space at the front. You're not worthy of, sit down, go sit at the kids' table. What are you doing? I'm from Boston. It's kind of a harsh environment. So I always get that Bostonian running in my head. What are you doing? Sit down.
Right.
It's just, that's my inner critic has a very strong Boston accent, just so you know, Adam.
Right. That's good. That's good background information.
Yeah, it's important. Yeah.
So is there something like, I get that general, almost like a conceptual level, there's like this just fear in general of standing up and being told to sit down, or standing up and not doing it right, or whatever. But is there sort of like, I'm curious if there's something you're, not just the idea now is the time and we must step forward. Is there something specific that you're like, oh, and that's what I'm supposed to be bringing? Like, is there anything like that that's there for you?
Yeah, and it's even hard for me to say out loud. It's stuff that didn't go over big in my family of origin. It wasn't valued in my family. So it is a softness, a compassion, deep listening, love, acceptance, like very feminine kind of deep, wise, feminine energy is what I'm supposed to be bringing into all of this. But that's not what was respected in my culture. The harder you can be, the more sarcastic, the more judgmental even.
Yep.
Is what is like, that's respected. That's a leader.
Right. Yeah. And like, I imagine, not having a military background myself, but I would imagine that would be the case there as well. Softness, surrender, receptivity are not really the hallmarks of what you're aiming towards.
No, I'm just saying, I'm sitting, I can feel that. I can feel all that right now. Just, it's funny, it's at war. It's like a part of me is going right towards that. Like, yes, like finally there's a space for it. Not only within me, but in the world, because I believe we need this now.
Yeah.
But just as strong as that other voice, that toxic kind of masculine voice in my head. And I don't mean like male, female. I just mean like, you know what I mean.
You were talking about energies.
Yeah.
As opposed to like genders.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, got it. So, okay. So like, is there, if that fear wasn't there, is there something we would see you actually step forward and doing? I get again, we're still a little bit in the level of the abstract, right? Like, oh, what there is for Mara to step into, it sounds like, as told by her, is a deeper expression of the feminine that she carries within her, the softness, the compassion, the love, maybe even the tears, the sadness. Feminine holds a lot. So if the fears around that weren't there, is there some way this would look? Is there something we would expect you to be taking on in specific?
Yeah. So I think, I run leadership development programs for an agency in the United States federal government. And I have to show up every week virtually with I have a group of people, there's 36 of them. And, I have a lot prepared because I feel like I have to be professional. I have to have it scripted. I've got to do a lot of work. I got to look like the expert leader, and I have to look smart. I have to look, I got this. And I'm finding in this work that I'm doing is all the time making me prepare and then show up really authentically. And that means in my virtual classes, I only have, if I have bullets of what I really want to cover, and then the rest, I just wing it. And I did that this week. And there were times when I ran out of things to say and my mind went blank, like I panicked. And I was like, well, I look stupid right now. This is my fear. This is it. I'm living it. It's right. I'm not. But then I heard from people after it was really useful. So, I mean, who am I to judge,
So it doesn't sound like there's much of a gap for you. Like what I'm hearing you say is, I'm scared to be authentic, but I'm being authentic.
I'm doing it.
Okay.
Oddly, it's not making it easier. I thought with practice, it would be like, oh, I'm just always going to be able to show up authentically, and just be like, it's not, it's hard. It still continues to be hard. So what am I saying? I just want it to be easier. I want it to feel differently than it does. I want not to be afraid. Maybe that's it. I don't know.
Well, let me offer you something to consider, not something that's right, something just to try on. Is oftentimes what I notice is that like the first level of our fear is just to be like, don't do the thing. That's like stage one. Just sit on your couch, don't do the thing. Okay, got it. The second level of fear is a little more sophisticated, where it's kind of like, okay, we got it. You got to do the thing. And then what it does is it constructs a way for us to do the thing that we're afraid of, but in a way that allows our fear to still kind of stay safe. Yeah. So the thing I would just put on the table for consideration is, what if the way you're showing up and the way you're describing is like, oh, I'm practicing the authenticity, is actually still inside the same box that you're hoping to get out of?
I don't understand what you mean by that.
Yeah. So I heard you say like, wow, I'm really feeling called to lead from a place of softness, compassion, love, tenderness, feminine energy, so on and so forth.
Yeah. And
then the next thing I heard you say, as I kind of looked at that with you, was I show up prepared, smart, scripted, very masculine sounding. My hands are indicating that.
Yeah.
And from there, I get to show up very authentically. So for me, there's a bit of a discrepancy between those two things. On the one hand, you're saying, oh, I'm scared and I really want to show up in this way. And what I'm doing is showing up scripted, prepared, blah, 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 but I still get to be authentic. And so I'm saying, what if the thing you're talking about isn't actually what you say you want to step into?
So while I'm saying I want to show up being very authentic, what you're saying is mostly, Mara, you just want to look smart in front of people.
No, but thanks for putting that out there so I can clarify. You're doing great. That's on me. So what I'm actually saying is, I really get that you really do want to show up in the feminine. Can we just use that for the shorthand? Does that work for you?
Yeah.
Awesome. Super. And I get, like, I want to take a minute here to acknowledge you for like your ability to hold the masculine. Like that is not an easy thing either. And I get you've had to learn to channel a lot of that energy. So you can probably hold a container pretty powerfully. You can prepare. You can probably be pretty penetrative with your questions, all of what we would ask from the masculine energy. So I'm hearing you say, I want to bring and lead from the feminine. And what I'm saying, that's the first thing I'm hearing you say.
Yeah.
Second thing I'm hearing you say is, and I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm saying, what
Moments.
if you're
Yeah.
not doing it?
What if I'm not?
Yeah. So I'm saying, I trust this, that you really want that.
Mm.
And yet it seemed really easy for us, where it was like, yeah, and I'm trying to do this stuff and I'm at work and I am doing it. So I guess we got there, which is like, that left me thinking like, what if there's a deeper level of stepping into this that Mara is not stepping into? And that's what
What would
I'm
that
curious
look
about.
like? So what
Yeah.
would
What
it
would that
look
look like?
like if I really were to step into that in a whole new way?
Yeah. And risked getting the feedback you're afraid you might get.
So what would it be like if I did that? I showed up in the fullness I wanted to show up as, and it wasn't well received, and I got shitty feedback. Or what
Well,
if I tried and I just failed at it?
we're kind of using the fear of getting the shitty feedback to back into what you really want. So like there's a way I imagine you really want to show up that we're not yet clear on.
Yeah.
There's the way you're kind of describing, oh, I'm kind of doing it right now. But in my heart, what I feel from you is like um that's a measly version of what you're really feeling called towards and what you're really afraid of, you know? So it's like you're practicing a bit, but it's like dipping my toe in the pool and saying, yeah, I'm practicing diving instead of jumping off of a diving board, right? And
Yeah.
so I'm also
Yep.
hearing there's like a bunch of feedback you're afraid you're going to get if you practice this. And so we're trying to use these two things to get us to like, what does Mara really, what would it look like if we saw you really step into it? What are you craving to bring to your leadership?
Geez. It's weird. It's like my mind wants to put together a plan. Like,
Yeah.
oh, well, step one, I would do that. Step two, I would. So what would it look like? Would it be even less planning? Would it be just, these are the three things I find intriguing right now. I'm just going to show up, say it, and wait for people to step in with me. Is that it?
What aren't you currently sharing with them?
Probably all the ways I'm kind of a fuck up.
Hmm. Yeah, it sounds like they're relating to you, you know, even when you show up authentically, they're like, Mara's great. She's awesome.
Yeah. And I like that. Because
Me
then
too.
I get to be great. Like, wow, I guess she really, yeah. Like, wow, she's actually pretty selfish. I know her. She's actually not that bright. She's actually disorganized and very forgetful.
These are the things you don't want them to know about you.
Yeah.
Feels like that's bringing up some emotion.
That when that stuff comes up, it's like it's proof that I should sit down and shut up. And I don't want to sit down and shut up. Like, look, you're not great. And you're just like the rest of us. So why do you deserve to be up front? Go sit down and be quiet.
Right.
Who are you pretending? Who are you? And if they were to really know me, yeah, I guess someone would say, you don't deserve to be a leader and you don't belong here. And go sit at the kids' table. Go sit at the kids' table. We've had enough. And I'm like one of the youngest of 7, so this is like a theme in my life. Go sit at the kids'
Totally.
table. Yeah.
Yeah. You've got like a bunch of evidence behind you to prove all of like, you didn't come up with these strategies because you're a dummy. You came up with them because they worked and you had evidence to justify continuing to do them, right? Uh-huh. How did it feel to share even a little bit of that just now? The ways you're a fuck up, or you're not perfect or whatever, would be a more kinder way to say that.
It's, I feel energy in my whole body. It's like a buzzing right now in my body. It's like it's in my heart and belly is like buzzing, goes up a little bit in my throat. It's a physical sensation. You want me to talk about emotions? I don't know if I can talk about emotions right now. What do I do? What's the right thing to do? I have to be good at this being a coachee thing.
Well, let me just reflect what I heard from you, which is as you talked about that stuff, and then I put attention on that, right? So you shared a little bit, like, here are some of the ways that I am, and I'm just going to use your words, a fuck up. And you kind of mentioned like, oh, I'm a mess. I'm kind of messy. I'm not that organized, et cetera, et cetera. I heard you, and then I said, like, how does it feel to like share those things, right? So we're kind of putting light on the fact that you've just shared something that you have a story is not okay to share. That'd be fair. And in looking at that, what I'm hearing you say is that first there's like a buzzing energy all throughout your body. And then I noticed that your talking started to speed up pretty quick. And then you sort of looked to me to give an answer as to what there was for you to feel or to say or to do. Got it. Anything else showing up as I'm saying this?
Sadness.
That felt nice.
Just like all this work, 52 years of work that I've done, and still not, it sounds ridiculous to say this, not perfect, still, after all the work I've done. Not standing in my power the way I want to be. Not, that sounds pretty bumper sticker-y. Not
my kid's not, on the honor roll, and
yeah, not fucking just not good enough after all this time and all this work
that you've been doing in order to get to the place where you are good enough, right?
Not worthy of the leadership, not worthy of the role of healer, the role of teacher, the role of leader. And these are all the things that I want with my whole heart.
And it's interesting, like there's a paradox I want to point out, not to convince you of something. Like I really want to honor where you're at, Mara, because you've just dropped below where we were a second ago. Like you're exhibiting courage in this moment. Thanks for being here. So there's a paradox, which is like, I get you lead like an organization of people that are like trained in a flavor of leadership, that they've been through some of the most trying times for leadership, that is combat, military engagement,
they're warriors.
All of that sort of stuff. Yeah, warriors.
They're warriors. Yeah.
And you've done all of this work. And so on the surface, it's like, man, that woman is leading her ass off. Like you could not be more worthy. You could not get more evidence to support that, like you have earned the right to lead. And yet the internal story sounds like it's ever more rooted. It's almost more of not enough, not good enough, not worthy enough. Is that how it kind of feels?
That's exactly how it feels.
Got it. I really honor your tenderness in this moment. Thanks for practicing, like embodying and empowering the feminine. You know, it's a lot. You got a lot of feminine.
Yet I wound up, and I mean, I came from this, and I wound up in a very kind of toxic male environment, and by design in a way, because I can speak both languages, and that's my job, is to interpret. And it's my job, you know, like I think a lot of us are in this the transformational industry. I want to speak the language of the people who hate the transformational industry.
Yeah.
And that requires me to go out and talk to people who originally think I'm full of shit. And my whole feminine, dance is not worthy of respect. And so I have to not go out and be myself. I have to kind of like ease into it and get there. And
Yeah.
but all the time I feel being ridiculed and like, what does she know? Jesus, that's so. Oh, as the thing that I get called is kumbaya. That sounds like I can go off and be kumbaya, and I have to be. It's always a dance, like a balance.
Yeah. So
Maybe that's it, Adam. Maybe it's just like risk more.
well, let's be
Feminine.
careful not to just create like a strategy out of this.
Yeah. I want a step-by-step process.
Totally. Yeah.
Is there a book?
So the first thing I want to reflect to you is you're actually in the process right now. Like this is the process, what you're letting yourself feel. And even the face you made just there, right? Which is like, oh, brother, are you kidding me? Like this feels crappy. Yes, it does. And the truth is that's part of the feminine energy. It is uncomfortable. It's a lot to hold. Women know this far better than men because they channel more of the feminine energy. Now, doesn't mean the masculine energy doesn't have its stuff that's kind of uncomfortable or crappy or whatever about it. It's just we're talking about a different one right now. The second thing is when we do not trust our energetic resonance. So like when you can't trust your feminine, we will go and find like a toxic, or I don't even like the word toxic. It makes it kind of sound blamey, but we'll find like a version of the opposite energy that is lacking in consciousness. So because you can't trust your feminine, you're naturally going to drive towards masculine energy that is not going to have much space for the feminine, because that's going to lock yours down and sort of keep you safe from what you don't trust in yourself.
That's very interesting. Oh, you know why I find that especially? Because what I've noticed is, growing up around military folks, I saw how early men in the military marry, like earlier than most. And I
Yeah.
always thought to myself, I always had this theory, it's like, because they can't own their own feminine, they got to go outside quick and marry somebody, because that's hard that was like just the story I had in my head. And I find what you said just interesting, because what you're saying is, your complicated relationship to the masculine. Is that why you've kind of gone right into this environment where?
Close. So what I'm saying is because you don't trust your feminine,
Mm.
you don't trust this part of
I don't
yourself.
trust. Yeah.
You have
Oh.
put yourself in an environment that
Oh.
like is a reflection of that.
Oh,
So
my
you've got,
interpretation was easier.
yeah, much better, right? Yeah. So
No.
you're all of this to affirm what you said. Of course, the world around you right now is a reflection of that's too kumbaya, that's not clean enough, it's not well prepared enough, all a reflection of the relationship to this aspect of yourself.
Okay, I need to sit a minute with that.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just have to. Wow, what I'm. Yeah, so that energy again in me, my belly and my heart is going again. So it reminds me that geez, it just reminds me that there's whole parts of myself that I'm not holding with tenderness or care, whole parts of myself that I'm judging very harshly. And the thing is, I've been doing this work for so long, I don't really allow that. I mean, when I hear that nasty voice, I hear it, but then I move away from it really fast because I don't believe in it. And I replace it with kind things I say to myself. So in my head, I'm not this cruel to myself, but as I'm listening to you say that, I'm like, geez, there's a whole part of me I'm still not okay with. That really warm, feminine, kumbaya side of me. Oh, there's a whole parts of me that still are not okay with that. And I don't allow that into my consciousness very often, because it's, I mean, my background's in counseling and coaching. It's like, that's not right, but you're right. There's still
Whatever
some,
right is.
yeah, like I judge that part of me that's harsh to me.
Yeah.
I judge the judgment.
Yeah.
And what that just uncovered when you were talking is like, wow, that's, yeah, whole parts of me not accepting.
So let me check in. Where are we at in this conversation for you?
I feel a lot of curiosity. Like I want to go sit and knit right now and think about all this. That's what I'm craving. I want to go sit in a corner by myself and knit and think about this.
Okay, got it. What is it you'd be thinking about?
I'm going to think about, like my own relationship to the feminine in me. Because I go out there thinking, don't you dare judge me for being too soft, too open, too compassionate, too loving, valuing loving kindness and wanting to talk about love and kindness. Don't you dare judge me for that. And there's a whole part of me that's judging me for that in myself that I've been projecting on to the world. And I just want to sit with that for a while. That's how I'm feeling.
Great. Okay, got it. So it sounds like you're really present to like this part of you that you've got a lot of judgment on, and you've been projecting that judgment onto the world or the people you work with or lead or whatever. I have that right?
Yeah, you have it right. And before now, I just wasn't really quite aware of how much is still in me around that.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I mean, 52 years of work to try to eradicate this, right? To try to contain this and get it all boxed in so that you could be enough, worthy of your radiance. Because you're a very radiant woman. I get that about you. And that would have an impact. So let's take this for a moment and look through we're going to turn the spyglass around and look the other way through it. So for a sec, let's take it out of the conversation of masculine, feminine, because you're right. That language for people in the military is going to be kind of triggering. The whole military is, generally speaking, it's a structure based on the masculine energy.
Masculine, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. And so instead, let's just talk about our relationship to the parts of ourselves that aren't structured and neatly organized and perfect and arranged and all of that. So like there's parts of ourselves that are put together and orderly and all of that. And then all of us as humans have parts of ourselves that are a little bit like that cry or that get angry or that have softness or whatever, right? With me so far?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. What do you see these people that you are leading doing with those parts of themselves?
Wow, I've been seeing a lot of that lately. And that is, they try to do a lot. Like they try to, they judge it really harshly. Mm-hmm. And they try to make sure it never comes up by putting systems in place where it never comes up. So they're like straight A. It's like they're straight A students all the time in all areas of their life. And they don't. And then to like when we talk about it, it's almost like, okay, Mara, I understand you. Now, what do I do to get rid of this part of myself? How do I chop it out? Got it. For other people, I'm like, no, that's not, no. Like, I just feel so loving towards all these parts of themselves that they can't accept.
Yeah.
And they want to do something. And I just love the way they are. They're like, they're Mary Ness, they're just who they are, not what they do.
Right. So it's beautiful because on the one hand, you're like, what you're saying is, guys, love this part of yourself, allow this part of
Yeah.
yourself to exist. But on the other hand,
Yeah.
who you're being is, this part of myself is wrong and should not exist. Right. So
Yeah.
there's what you're saying and doing is at odds with who you're being as you're saying and doing it. You get
Yeah.
that part?
Yeah. I mean, I see that in them, but not in myself.
Right.
I can
Yeah.
see it so
Yeah.
clearly in what they're doing, what they're up to, and it's very clear. But
Yeah.
in myself, no.
Got it. So what's the cost of that for them? I really get it. It's like they do a lot, they judge it harshly, they've got systems in place. They're trying to be a straight A student everywhere, which in some ways would be amazing. It would look really good on the surface. They
They
try to
do look good on the
eradicate.
surface. Yeah, they
Yeah, they
do. They're
try.
high performers. Yeah,
Right.
they get rewarded for this. Yeah.
And who's going to point anything, like it's one of the benefits, like you're going to point a flaw to this person, show me the flaw. Where is it? It's impeccable. There's not even a speck of dirt on their boots.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the payoff, right? What's the cost to them? What do you see the cost is?
They don't get their voice out there. They don't get their voice out there. Like they show up in 3 colors when in reality there are 1,000 colors. Instead of painting with all of the colors, they paint with red, white, and blue. You know?
Nice. Yep. And what's the cost of that? It's
We don't
beautiful
get
metaphor,
them.
by the way.
Thank you. We don't get the when people show up so wholeheartedly, it's like I just feel awe, and I feel deeply satisfied. I feel deeply engaged. I feel inspired, motivated. And they have that in them, but they won't step into it because they're too busy trying to be perfect.
So they've got 3 colors or whatever that they can paint with instead of the infinite spectrum. We don't get the experience of their hearts. So I imagine we don't ever get to fully get them. Would that be fair? And what is the impact? And you can either look on yourself, because we're talking about you, right? You're the perfect leader for these people, Mara. Or you can look to them, to what you see. But what's the impact of never feeling like, of people around you never fully getting you?
Oh, the impact is they don't, and this is what I'm learning, because they're saying, I am out there taking risks, and they say to me, now I take risks because I see you doing it. But I'm only taking a certain amount of risk. So if I continue to not take the risk, they won't learn to do it themselves. You know, like
I do, but are you coming to answer my question?
what
Do
do
you
you mean?
remember my question?
What's the impact on them for
Yeah,
me
or
not
another.
showing up?
Well, let me lay the planks again, okay? So I'm hearing you say there's a part of these people that they judge harshly. It's like their imperfections, their humanity, we might call it, the parts that aren't orderly and put together and that aren't straight A's. And what these people do with that is they judge it harshly. They try to lobotomize or eradicate it from themselves. They put systems in place. They straight A their way so that it never comes to the surface, right? And I asked you, like, what's the cost of that? There's benefits for sure. We're clear on those. What are the costs? Well, part of it is they only get to paint with 3 colors. They only get to express themselves down very rigid lines. We out here never get to get them fully. So now I'm asking you to look like, so that's the impact out here. Oh, we don't get to get you fully, but what's the impact in there of being in a world that never fully gets you? How does that leave someone feeling? What's the cost? How does that experienced in their life?
Loneliness.
I really felt you there.
Yeah, that's it.
Uh-huh. Do you need anything in this moment? Like, I feel your emotion, you feel pretty good in it, but I don't want to step over it either.
Thanks for hanging out with me in my loneliness.
Thanks for sharing it with me. It's not quite so lonely when you do, is it?
It's very satisfying.
Well, that's what we're aiming for. So good to like just draw this out a little bit further. How do they, so all we're doing, right, is we're taking where we started and we're just like kind of exploring it, right? Oh, got it. Makes sense. There's this part of themselves that they cannot let themselves express. And then they've got strategies to manage that. And then what is the impact of those strategies? And then where does that leave them? So I'm going to read back, like just put the picture for you. So these people are, holy crap, these people are amazing. First of all, like they have found some way brilliantly to be straight A at life. Life is not a straight A game. And yet that is what they've forced it into. And they have created a surface externally that looks like straight A's. They do a tremendous amount. They've got systems in place. Meanwhile, inside, there's a tremendous amount of judgment of how they are or who they are or these parts of themselves. They're trying and working to eradicate a part of who they are. Where that leaves them is only able to express themselves in like very narrow bands of acceptable range. The world at large misses out on the fullness of who they are, and where they are left as a result is in deep loneliness. What do they do to manage that loneliness?
More activity, more
Uh-huh.
going, more doing, more numbing activities. Maybe if I get a promotion, maybe if I reach another goal, maybe if I set and reach another goal.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Do. Like just if I do more is their answer. Is there a book I can read? Is
Maybe I
there
found the thing.
the thing?
Yeah.
The
Oh,
thing.
are you still
They
there?
hate it.
This
I
beeped
can,
at me. Can you hear me?
yeah, I can. Can you
Okay,
hear
great.
me?
Yeah,
Okay.
you sound great. Yeah.
Yeah, what they don't like me saying is what if it's not about you doing something? What if it's okay just where you are in all of your messiness and all of your, whatever? What if you don't have to do anything? What if we just sit with this
Yeah.
right now together? I hear, and I've done this quite a few times, there's always silence. Like they don't, like, it doesn't register at all.
Right. Yeah. So of course it wouldn't, right? Because what they've learned to do with this part of themselves is, and you've just shared this with us, right? Judge it.
Yeah.
Like you have all the answers within you because they're a reflection of the strategies you've learned to create for these parts, right? Straight A. I imagine you did very well in school. Was that accurate?
Yeah.
Yeah. No brainer. And so when I invited you to sort of be in this, right? You kind of, do you notice your brain like even found a way to make a thing? Oh, I think I found the thing. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's, of course, that's what's showing up, right? That's their relationship to it. So as you point to something, we can expect that relationship to show up and be in the space. So first, I want to speak like what you might do with this as coach. And then I
Yeah.
want to bring it back to what there is for you to do, like to model or whatever.
Yeah.
So hold on, let me just see if that's the order I want to go in. I think first I want to talk about you as leader in this, okay?
Okay.
So I want to be clear that it's not really about what you do. It's about who you be. Because remember, what you were doing was telling them to love these parts of themselves, while who you were being was disdainful of these parts of yourself. Make sense? You got that part?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great. what do you see there is that would set these people free?
So all I know is from my own experience of what sets me free.
Yeah.
The powerful witnessing of the parts of myself I don't want anyone to see.
Got it. So if I break that apart, it sounds like it's going to require two things. One is that they be willing to like express it. And two is to be witnessed in their expression of that. Is that right?
Yeah. And the thing is, I mean, we do this assessment and the assessment's called the Hogan assessment. And what it does is it kind of points out, it indicates how strong their inner critic is what it does. Their churn. It indicates how much churn they have going on in them. And a lot of them have a lot of churn, and the numbers will show that. And I'll say, can you tell me about this? What does it look like for you? What does this inner critic say and do, blah, blah. And then they're like, oh shit, she's on to me. And then if I can show up with as much love and compassion and appreciation as I can muster for that hour, stuff happens.
Right. Yes. So there's a part here that I'm not going to let you wriggle out of. And that is it's beautiful what you want and are standing for them. But a leader standing for people to do something or to be something that the leader themselves is not willing to model.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. That's the beauty of leadership, is integrity is baked into it.
Yeah.
And so if we just walk these steps again, so one, an expression of what's there, two, to be witnessed. And then, there's a whole bunch of other stuff that'll happen from that, right? Like if I were to express my anger, your reaction would be a function of your relationship to the expression of anger, right?
Yeah.
If I were to really embody my feminine and feel pleasure, the way you might experience me would be a reflection of your relationship to the embodiment and expression of the feminine.
Right. Yep.
So however they express, what we're going to get back is the world's relationship to what it is we are expressing.
Yeah, exactly.
So if what they need is to express this, to be witnessed in that expression, and then it sounds like the third part would be to be with whatever shows up.
Yeah.
What do you see that calls you forward to do as a leader?
Yeah. So, it requires me to hold and be nurturing and accepting around all the things in myself that I don't want to hold and be nurturing and accepting around. And I think, and I've spent so much of the last 30 years. I mean, I started the journey that I'm on, when I was 20 or something, 20. So it's been, over 30 years, but there's always new ways of, and that's what my work is really requiring of me right now, is a whole new level of acceptance, a whole new level of witnessing of all the soft places in myself that need more compassion. And that's what happened in this hour, basically, is what I just really started becoming aware of is how much judgment I had for my feminine. And I thought, I stand for feminine principles. You can't tell me I don't have acceptance of that. And then during this conversation, it was like, oh, crap. I still, I got work to do there. I have more opening, more softening. And I think if I do that, I'd be able to be a good witness for them.
Yeah, especially if you're willing to not do it right. So let me read first what Heather has written here. And then I'm going to I want to give you some steps and some things to practice.
Okay.
You're doing amazing work, just beautiful work. Like I want you to know you're modeling it right now. Now you and I have created a container where we can do that, right? That's your job now, to go and create a container where this can be modeled. So one, Heather says, I am so excited. She said a bunch of stuff. She thinks you're rad. So you and Heather will be BFFs.
Hey, Heather, we're friends.
But she says, I'm so excited to see the power Mara brings to her people when she brings herself fully as a leader to the space with them.
Beautiful. Thank you.
So what I assert you're called forward here is, one, to express these parts of yourself, to let them be in the space, to let yourself be messy, to actually own, here's what I didn't do. Here's where I'm feeling bad about this. Here's whatever. And then your practice is to like bring compassion and love to those parts of yourself to the best you can. Two, let yourself be witnessed by these people. And then three, be with whatever that kicks up for them. So I'll give you like a simple example of how this is at play. Like you get, I'm a man who's pretty self-expressed and has a lot of presence, right? You can imagine, I'm sure, when I come into a room, there's some people that are like, who the hell's that guy? He's cool. And there's other people that are just like automatically, fuck that guy. And some people might want to be like, I'm going to hurt that guy. Like I want to fight him or I want to take him down. Some women are like, ooh, look at that man. Some women are like, that guy I don't like at all. You know, whatever it is, you can imagine all of that stuff gets kicked up, right? My job as a leader is not to diminish myself so that that doesn't happen. It's instead to do my own work so I can be with everything that the world provides in the face of my expression. Yeah.
Yeah. You know why I don't like that? That means I don't get to be pleasing to everybody.
True. People will like you less, but they will love you so much more.
What is that? I'd rather be one man's shot of whiskey than everybody's cup of tea. What is that?
I don't know, but it makes me want to drink whiskey. But whatever it is, whatever it is, like
no more tea time. It's whiskey time.
So do you get these men need a woman to model this for them powerfully?
Wow. Oh. All right. That is kind of a kick in the pants when you just said that for me.
How come?
Ooh. Okay, I have to put my brain back together so I can speak.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, all right. Just gonna bring myself. Okay, so speak now. I'm speaking. Wow, you just made it sound like I have a place in this world. Like you made it sound like I'm on a mission, and you made it sound like I deserve to be at the table. Like get yourself at the fucking table already, lady. Look, get yourself at the table. They need you here. You're needed here instead of just, isn't she cute with her little coaching and counseling thing? It's adorable.
Yeah. Like that's where they'll probably start. That's the initial reaction.
Yeah, I'm used to that one.
Yep.
But you just made that sound like a story and not reality.
Yeah. You know? Well, or a different way to think of it is it's reality at one level, and you are here to have an impact at a deeper level. So on the surface, that they've got the same evidence you do for why, oh, it's cute and it's kumbaya. And now what you're doing is you're playing at a much deeper level with them because you're committed to a deeper level of access to their own selves, like you are committed to for yourself.
I'm literally holding onto my table right now. You can't see me, but I'm holding onto my table.
Yeah.
Wow.
So are you clear on the possibility that's available?
No, because I can't imagine what that'll be like. I mean, I know what I should say is I'm clear that there's huge possibility here, but what that looks like and how I show up and how I move in the skin of a person who is realizing her potential and is comfortable in her power, I get moments of it, but it's hard for me to imagine, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So that's a bit of the how.
Yeah.
Right? What do I do?
Yeah.
So we'll create some
Yeah.
practices. The possibility though, like, are you present to what would be possible for yourself and these men if this work got taken on? Like if they could see this modeled, if they could be with these parts of themselves that are trying to create straight A's over top of and just to lobotomize out of their being entirely. Like, can you envision to some extent what might be different, how the world might be better off that way?
Yeah.
Anything in particular you see?
Look, you're not going to want to hear this, but I don't see a whole lot of examples of really self-actualized men around me. I'm sorry. I have to go online to see it. I know I'm not supposed to say that, but I see it in the coaching, and like I see it through like you and Toku and somebody named Wes, who I've never met before. Like I see you guys like out there doing the work and what that can look like. But I'm not walking around seeing examples of this in my life, but I know it exists and I see the power of it. Is that what you were asking me? I don't know.
Well, I want you to, it's a great place to start. I want you to take that and tell me what you see as possible for these men now. So you kind of came into it like, here's how these men aren't. So how would they be on the other side of a woman courageous and powerful enough to take on this work herself and to model it for them so that they can then do that themselves? What would become available in their lives that's not currently?
Self-expression, connection to heart, more love, deeper relationships with everybody around them.
Beautiful. So that's the vision to stay present to when the parts of themselves that are scrambling for protection and safety via judgment shows up.
Can you say that again?
Yeah. So that vision, that possibility you saw, like these men painting with all of the colors that are available to them, being self-expressed, the end of loneliness and all of what comes out of a reaction to loneliness, when all of that is gone, that's the vision to stay present to. Because along the way, the hurdles that you'll encounter are going to be all of that crappy judgment stuff that they've got, the same stuff you do. And so when you are confronted by that, the vision that you just shared with me is what there is to put your attention on. That's why this work is worthy of you.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's so important. Like, cause they want to bring you, like everybody wants to bring you down a rabbit hole, right? So having that North Star, that allows me to see the horizon. This is where we're going. When they show up with either aggression or dismissing me or blah, blah, or, yeah.
Yeah.
Aggression or passive aggression. Yeah.
Yeah. Or judgment or, whatever.
Yeah. Geez.
It's a sign you're on the right path.
Yeah. And the judgment kind of, it stops me in my tracks because the way you're talking about it, judgment is just going to show up and it's just going to be one more tool that they bring with them. But for me, it's like that judgment is like, no, stop. You don't deserve to be here. You need to leave. Like I believe
it actually
that
means
story,
you're on the right path.
And it means I'm on the right path.
Yeah.
I just didn't put it together like that, Adam. I didn't.
Me neither until just now.
Wow.
So let's create some practices. Okay.
All right.
Are you able to write?
Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
Holding onto your desk again. Make sure you don't fall off.
All right.
So the first one I would invite you to do is notice when you are trying to straight A your way through something.
Yeah.
So you're not trying to stop it. You're just trying to see if you can notice this automatic pattern.
Yeah.
And if you can notice that, then for bonus points, the next step would be to say like, what is here that I'm trying to like not have be here?
What can I not be with?
Yeah, great. Much better.
Okay.
So, but first you really want to catch, oh, I'm doing that straight A thing. What am I not willing to be with? The The second thing you might do is you might share what you've distinguished in this conversation with your people.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a lot easier for people to hear and get something. I mean, this is why leaders model their work, is because if I share what I'm noticing over here, you can hear yourself in me. Whereas if I share it at you, like, this is what there is for you to get, Mara, that's a lot. It's demanding someone be really courageous and say, oh yeah, I am with that. And we have to remember all of this is a function of fear. So it's kind of like having someone just say, yeah, that's what I'm totally doing that thing, is asking a lot. It's like asking them to step out over their fear. So you might just share like, hey, okay, I've been getting some support and here's some of the stuff I can tell. Like, this is what I really don't like in myself. And these are the strategies that I've put together to make sure it never happens. This is the impact and this is what I'm left with. And I imagine some of you may be able to see yourselves in that story and see what that creates. Basically, you're creating opportunities to sort of model some of this so they can see what it looks like when someone takes a look at their story and starts to own it and starts to practice outside of it.
Yeah, I kind of do this, and
Right.
And the thing is, I create all this great material, right? And all this stuff I prepared, and then I illustrate it with one really shitty story of myself that I don't want to share. They don't remember any of the great material I put together. All they remember is the shitty story, and they'll come back and say, "Remember you did that thing? I tried that thing." Like, well, what about all the other stuff? And like, what?
Totally. Yeah. People remember being. We're impacted by being. The last thing for real bonus points would be for you to just practice like letting more of this out, like letting them see more of this in you. So not just talking about, oh, I've got these parts of me that I hate and last week I did this thing, but like model allowing that thing to exist in the moment. That's what real vulnerability is. I'm not trying to take away from what you've been doing, but everyone wants to come on a podcast, it seems my podcast, and share their stories about how they were vulnerable 3 years ago and what a thrilling story it is now because they've come out on the other side. And
I love doing that.
Yeah, me too. And it feels good, right? And it's an interesting story, but the story that really that changes us, that causes transformation right now is the one that we are telling as we are living it.
Yeah.
I don't want you guys to know that right now I feel like a fuck up. I don't want you guys to know that right now your question makes me feel so horrible. That's not about you. I'm clear that's my stuff. I'm sharing it so that you can get it, et cetera, et cetera. You have to take those on as practices?
I totally am. I
Cool.
love it.
I want to acknowledge you and quickly debrief, but before we do that, anything that is kind of outstanding for you that would have this feel complete?
Geez, I feel really good right now. I feel very open, very soft. I feel very vulnerable, but in a really good way. So This has been really powerful for me. So I really want to thank you. And this was a real blessing for me. So thank you.
You're welcome. I'm honored. Mara, I really want to, you do feel really good right now. You feel very feminine. Like even the way you were moving towards the end was like more loose, more fluid, more flow, more pleasurable. I really acknowledge you for all of your radiance and all of the femininity that you have. You're a woman with a lot of feminine. You're a very feminine woman. And I want to honor the part of you that created the strength to hold the masculine the way you have. I think in part so that you could then do the work that's now here for you to do, so you can allow all of your feminine to be expressed and to exist in the space. There's just a great deal of energy that you have the ability to hold. And I think, I imagine your soul might have decided like, hey, look, the game I want to play is I'm going to be here to express so much friggin' feminine. It's going to be crazy. And then the people that like give you this choice were like, well, you can have that, but you're going to really have to like learn to be with the masculine, and you're going to have to learn to be with a lot of judgment that gets kicked up around that. And your soul's like, no problem, let's do it. And then, you're like, wait, what? What did I say yes to? But like, I really feel your spirit in this. And I really feel this is a journey you're on that's worthy of you, truly worthy of you, and truly fucking worthy of these men. And like, they have done so much for us, and where they're left is lonely. And that sucks. And I really honor you for being a woman doing her work so as to bring them this opportunity to heal their relationship to the feminine by healing your relationship to the feminine. And that is legacy work. Thanks so much on behalf of the masculine for being up for doing that. Yeah.
Good gift. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
All right. Oh, let's just talk about other stuff now. I'm going to read some of these comments that are here. Thank you, Ben, Heather, Brad, all of you who have shared. First, Mara, anything that you're present to that was like, that's just there for you to share? Like, oh, I thought we might go here, or, you know, anything about how this went?
Yeah, I thought we were going to talk about something entirely different, like goals I've had forever and are not reaching. And then this took a totally different turn. Yeah. But good, because and the thing that it struck me is the stuff I was thinking about before. This is a new world we're living in now. There's a lot going on here. It's time to completely reassess our goals from before. That's what I was thinking. It's like, why yesterday was I thinking about that goal when, you know, just sitting here as you were talking that first 10 minutes about what the world is like right now. And I'm like, what was I thinking? Of course I need to talk about my leadership and how I'm not, you know, going into it the way I want to. So
Totally.
this is, yeah, it's very different than where I thought.
Thanks for sharing that. It's a funny thing, like when we've got our goals on the surface, and it's not, I want to be really clear for everyone listening and watching that goals are important. Coaches that are like, I never coach goals, I think you should be dubious of those people, because foreground results are a measure of the impact we're having, of what we're doing. If we just sit in a cave and talk about our being and nothing around us ever changes, who cares? You might as well have just not done it. And so it's not that goals, results, what we want to create in the world is not important. It's that we want to always drop down to the level below, because you can probably imagine, Mara, and probably everyone listening, how Mara now shows up from this place with her men, with her veterans, with the people she's supporting in their leadership. The way things are going to get created is going to be drastically different. You may move towards the same goal, you may not, but like, it's just going to be created in a totally different manner. And that will have the goal feel so much better when we arrive there too. For what it's worth, I had no idea either where we were going to go, or, you know, is this going to be a conversation about goals, and I think our job, both of us really, is to be okay to hang out in the unknown together, be okay to, well, I was leading a coaching call, a training call, and my friend Toku, who you'd mentioned, Mara, introduced me. He said, Adam is now going to take us through some deep coaching. And what I said was, maybe it'll be deep coaching, or maybe it'll be shallow coaching, or maybe it'll be weird coaching. I don't really know, because saying deep coaching implies deep is good, and it's not. All there really is to do is to be with each other and see where there is to walk from there. And if we're willing to do that, some beautiful stuff can happen.
Yeah. Hell with that whole straight A student thing.
No kidding. It's way more fun not having to. I mean, from the place of not having to create straight A's, it can be fun when you choose to create them. I still sometimes I'm like, I want straight A's, but without the burden, because I had that same thing. It's like, oh, this is so much better. Let's see. So Brad said, amen, I'm scared of not doing it right, missing perfect. Heather said she can really relate to the prep and having to show up the same way. So even just you modeling it here is really providing a lot for people. Heather said, love the question, as a leader, what don't you want them to know about you? Yeah, that often gives us access, because that's the part where we're hiding our expression. Let's see what else we had here. Heather said that this was tremendous. So both of you love it. Thank you. Heather said, yes, Mara's feminine is a gift. that she can bring to them. And Jenny said, so beautiful and wonderful to witness this beautiful circle of hope, trueness, and depth. Thank you both for sharing this experience. So thank you so much, Mara. I think we'll wind down there, but I want to say, if you were inspired by Mara, how can do you do stuff outside of where you are currently like generating leadership? Is there a place for people to connect with you?
Through Facebook and
Cool.
my name out there. You can connect with me on Facebook, and I do coaching myself. You can always reach out to me on Facebook or LinkedIn.
Awesome. And her name is confusingly spelled Moira. Why is it pronounced Mara? Is that like a Gaelic thing, or?
It is a Gaelic name, and my family called me Maura, and then I changed it to Mara, and then yeah.
Cool. I love how in Gaelic everything is spelled fanciful and nothing sounds the way it's spelled. Like that's a Cayley or a
we
Fesh.
Like being confusing.
Yeah, totally. And I think you're still planning to come to the intensive, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So Mara's going to be doing more work and showing up and being amazing with us in Victoria whenever that is next. So if you're like, man, I really loved spending time with Adam and Mara, and I wish I could get more of that in my life, come join us for the intensive. That's a space where you can come and it's work like this and developing your ability to see people this way and to work with them this way. And it's just going to be a beautiful, vulnerable, brave, powerful space that we're going to share together. Okay, Mara, love you. Thank you so much for being with us. Everyone else, thank you as well. We'll see you at 2 for our call to Be with COVID, if you're going to be on that. And that's it for now. And now how do I end this? Oh, I click this and I say stop live stream. Bye, guys.